I'm headed towards the clouds, y'all. I'm headed towards the clouds. I got a pocket full of dreams. No one's holding me down. I understand you've been searching for an answer to your pain, but pain doesn't have an answer. Pain means you're learning. Love means you're teaching. Time is your servant, and giving is receiving. I'll give you my pain. I'll give you my love. Yeah, I'll give you my time. And all I ask of you all in return is to fly. And I'll see you in the clouds someday. I'll see you in the clouds. Y'all got a pocket full of dreams. So don't let me down.
Carlos, summertime, and you know, if one, as a cinephile, if I linked your films together, it's moving because they're about stories from people who really, I think in the broad scheme of things, you're spotlighting voices that in Hollywood history hasn't been really spotlighted at the forefront. And a lot of filmmakers, to make it in the industry, they try to actually maybe cater to the mass and actually come out with something really populist and popular. Where did your initial inspiration, especially with projects like Summertime, just come from? Was this always your goal as a child to actually bring out, spotlight different voices through your talents?
That is such a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. I think a lot of it is just the people that I've found myself around and the people who surrounded me and the people who inspire me. And whether it was David and Rafa when I did Blind Spotting, or whether it was like this group of poets for Summertime, I guess the credit to myself would just be allowing myself to find these people and to allow my path to cross theirs and to seek these kinds of experiences. But I feel like I've just been really lucky to find artists who I'm incredibly inspired by, whose stories I feel are important. And also, as you mentioned, not ones that we hear about too often. And thankfully now I feel like we're coming to sort of a new era of filmmaking and storytelling in general, where these stories are I think everyone realized the necessity and the importance in bringing light to these stories, but it hasn't always been so. So it's how exactly we've crossed paths. I feel like that's a bigger question for someone who has more information than me. But I think I've just really followed the stories that inspire me, the stories that feel unique and necessary and profound. And that's literally all that I saw when I first saw Raul and his colleagues. Just I had this experience that I just had never had before. I was inspired, I was questioned, I was sort of awakened to the side of LA that I had never seen.
On being awakened, Raul, and I remember this line from Clouds where you say, "My time is only valuable when I give it to you." And that's that is something that I should really think about myself. And I'm just wondering, when did you get to that place personally, when you realize most people say, "Oh, my time is so precious," which it is, but they use it sometimes as an ego defense mechanism. But in Clouds and the way I think you're going about your life with teaching, it just seems that your time is not your own. Your only time is precious when you share it with others. Where does that come from?
I love people. I always say, well, thank you for asking great questions. I always say people are like books, the more people you meet, the more books that you read. And so I love learning, whether it's in academia or just through people and how they live their lives. I just really enjoy that time. That my time is only valuable when I give it to you. I really, really see that manifesting and in full feeling when I'm in front of auditoriums or classrooms as an educator slash poet. But when I'm teaching, that's for me is why I was why I came down to this earth. And so there's so many students, and I think it's because I see myself in everyone in that audience, in that crowd, in that classroom, because I was pretty close to not doing anything with my life. And the only thing that kind of was my life raft, and I didn't know it was a life raft at the time. I thought it was just a tool for me to look cool, was performing. And so I was oh, I like this thing. I'm getting a little bit of attention for it. I'm just going to keep on doing it since I was 16. And I kept on doing it because I thought it was cool. And I kept on doing it because I thought it was cool. And then there was a point where I was wait, there are people who are like changing their whole outlook on how they view education, on how they view art, on how they view themselves. And I'm a part of that process for them. And for me, that is the most powerful thing you can do for a person, is to give them a mirror, but not only give them a mirror, but also give them a language to break down what's in that mirror. And I think that's what poetry is. And I think that's what, arts education is. And so, I really value people's time, especially if they're in a transitional state, because I've been in so many transitions, and I've only gotten through those transitions because of people that were around me and words that were around me that moved me to keep going.
Raul, you're going to be teaching it, but this is a question to both of you. How excited are both of you regarding the Get Lit curriculum? Because we live in a world where social media and the visual medium is king and queen. But really, even if you take something like Instagram, there is a whole white space. There's a canvas where an artist can create his or her world with just words. Can both of you speak to that fact and how that really ties in to the Get Lit curriculum? And I'm just really excited for the next generation of artists that will come out and shape the stories that we consume.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Raul talk specifically about the curriculum, because he's got all the wealth of knowledge that I don't. But I will just say that for me as a filmmaker, it's sort of like the ultimate dream to be able to work on projects that have this potential to impact, more than just audiences who come watch the movie. And Get Lit, the organization that I met all the poets through, they're first and foremost an educational organization. They bring arts to communities that don't get these kinds of opportunities very often. So the fact that we're going to be able to continue the path of the movie through this curriculum, to me, is sort of like a dream come true. And I was so affected by the poets and their work that I just can't wait to see what kind of impact they'll have on so many more teachers and students around the country. So anyway, Raul, please, you can say all the things that I can't.
You're saying them, we're saying them in different ways. I think when it comes to, there's been a huge change in education in the last couple of years, where we're finding it more and more necessary to amplify student voice and to encourage students to empower themselves with their own personal narratives. Get Lit's been doing that work for the last 15 years. And I think Summertime is just like the highlighted project of what can come from when you give youth a platform to share their stories and to, and feel empowered by them. You get things like Summertime, and what's really great is, the Get Lit curriculum has been, part of Get Lit since its genesis, and Summertime, just affecting people the way it has, having them blend together the curriculum and the film with the Summertime lessons plans that we're now offering. I think it's just it's great timing for that. Because there's so many students right now, especially because of the pandemic, that are so disconnected. They're over with school, or, they're Zoom fatigued and all these things. These Summertime lesson plans give them an opportunity to talk about what they're going through and what they're experiencing, whether that's with mental health or whether that's, just whatever they're going through. And it also at the same time helps them it helps them focus on literacy, helps them focus on social emotional learning. And yeah, I think it's just so relevant to have this curriculum and this lesson plan and this film dawning at the time that it is right now. So super excited about it.
Carlos, I love movies about LA. My only problem is a lot of movies about LA are very two-dimensional. They're either noirish or it's set in the hipster confines of like Los Feliz, Silver Lake area. And it's, all these kind of different tropes, which are fine. Can you just speak to the fact how awesome it is to have you have 27 artists of different colors, motivations, persuasions, and passions just coming in together and giving the audience, the viewer, a full picture of what it's like to live and breathe in Los Angeles. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that was the experience that I had when I first met the poets. I was invited to the showcase where, 25 plus of them just came on and shared a little bit about themselves and then shared a poem. And I realized that in doing so, after seeing all of them, I was sort of like introduced to an LA that I had never seen before. Like, you know, I've been in many neighborhoods. I'm very aware of the diversity that exists in the city, but to feel like I connect with so many people on such an intimate level, like they're literally welcoming you into their lives and sharing the things that are most important to them about themselves, about their communities, about the spaces that they occupy. I just felt like I had been given a tour of LA that most people don't really get to experience. First of all, because anyone who's outside from LA has only been exposed to the types of movies, the types of books and music that you're talking about, Greg, that have like a very singular perspective. And the people who live here also, like, as opposed to many other cities that, you know, have like a much bigger public transportation system or that aren't so sprawling as LA is, I feel like you're more naturally inclined to sort of like cross paths with so many people that are different than yourself. But LA, I feel like, at least my experience, it's a lot more confined and a lot more isolated. And I found myself, I have been living here over 15 years and constantly surrounded by the same group of people that I either work with or that I went to school with. And anyway, here it was just really like a chance to really broaden my understanding of the city, to really go into neighborhoods that I hadn't visited, to really go into homes that I hadn't visited, and to learn about so many perspectives that are different from my own. And I guess that was really the impulse for wanting to do Summertime, just saying like, this experience was so valuable for me and it's given me so much. I want to be able to share this with as many people as I can, because I think there's lots to gain from it.
You know, on a selfish note, Raul, I just want to know specifically, where were you? How did you feel the first time you got to see your scene cut together in its final form? Because Clouds ultimately, and from my interpretation, it's not about getting ahead of your fellow brother and sister. It's really deeply wishing that your fellow brother and sister follow their own dreams. And I think that really unifies, in my perspective, what Summertime is all about. How did you feel personally when you saw that cut together?
I remember the screening. We had a screening just for cast, where I first saw the movie. Now I had no idea what this movie was going to look like. I know we read the script, but and all the poems, most of the poems that are in the film were poems that I've seen before, because like we're a community and we perform in front of each other. But I still had no idea what they were going to look like and what they were going to like feel like, or maybe they even changed the poems themselves. And so throughout this movie, I'm just seeing all my homies like performing their poems, and like there's scenes now, and they're like coming to life. These how I imagined it to be. Like it's in front of my eyes, and then everyone's having their time. We're all shouting for each other, and then my piece comes in towards the end, and the support that I got from my peers, and the support that I felt, from everybody a part of Summertime. I think it was a really triumphant moment for me, for a person who didn't think they would ever get it this far, to now see myself like super highlighted, like emphasized, I would say, at the end of this film. And so I felt powerful. I felt super powerful, and it felt like a power that was like good. It wasn't like ooh, I'm powerful. It was like ooh, I might have I might have the power to make a difference. And so that it was extremely just fulfilling, and I appreciate it, Carlos. Thanks so much. Thank you.
My final question to you guys is unfortunately a very superficial one, but I host a movie podcast, and I want to ask the requisite question. Can each of you, from the top of your head, name one of your all-time favorite movies, and what is it about this movie that still speaks to you today, and not just on a nostalgic note, still is relevant for you today?
I would have to say Watchmen. I've watched that movie so many times, and just the darkness of it, of that movie, it just, for me, always recognize your own darkness, and and hopefully by recognizing it, you're also to recognize what's not darkness in your own light. Like that movie is just, it moves me every single time.
Thank you. And then you, Carlos?
For me, I would say Do the Right Thing. That movie just, I was old. I mean, not old, but I wasn't very young when I first saw it, and it just hit me so hard. And I've seen it like Raul mentioned, I've seen it so many times, and every time I see it, it's for all the reasons, for the social reasons, for even just like purely superficial cinematic, like craft reasons. I just find that movie to be so important.
Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Absolutely love the film. So,
thanks so much,
Greg.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Greg.
And by the way, off the record, Rachel is my favorite publicist. So make sure she doesn't hear that, because I give her a lot of ish all the time. All right, thank you guys so much.
Raul Herrera, I cannot stop this writing. At a gas station, I scribble a note behind my left ear reminding me that I'm not special, but I sure as hell am next. In a drive-thru for fast food, I jot on my jawline something about stopping for nothing unless there is a deal. In a classroom near home, off the river end of the 710, I scratch on a whiteboard, "You cannot be brave unless you're scared. You cannot be confident unless you're insecure." I write on my chest, "What are you afraid of? Of rejection? Of acceptance? Of someone that can love you wild?" My ribcage is inscribed with metaphors I've written while meeting people in semi-familiar places, all of which is ridiculous to look at in hindsight, and hindsight always has a marvelous view. I cannot stop this writing because all these words help me remember all these people and all these feelings and all these moments that are bound to be unbounded in the book of my brain. I want to thank you for listening to this writing. I have so much more, and they can't wait to meet you. I wrote this poem because I legitimately can't stop writing. Every moment that I'm not writing, my anxiety creeps back up, my insecurity creeps back up, and the only thing that really makes me feel confident about myself and all the things that I've been through and all the flaws that I have and all the amazing things that are about me, I really get to encapsulate and just put down on paper, so it's a little more believable in my heart. So this poem really represents like my passion, and also this survival tool, which is poetry, which is writing, and that's why I wrote the poem.